I am super excited. We're going to be doing an interview really quick with Madam CJ Walker's granddaughter. So just hold tight. We're going to get this thing started in just a minute. So, guys, I'm really super excited. Hey, Miss Lilia. All right, good. She's there. Okay, so we're going to bring in a Miss Lilia Bundles, who is the great granddaughter of Madam CJ Walker. I'm super excited. So get ready. This is going to be absolutely amazing. Hold on. Let's see if we can get her in. And Lilia. Here we go. Hey,
Hello.
you.
How are you? I know. Isn't it amazing when it
Oh my
actually
gosh.
works?
It's crazy. First of all, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Happy Easter to you. And I apologize about the technical difficulty. We were supposed to be live on Facebook, but actually this is a better platform, so this is great. It makes it easier. I can see her. She can see your questions if she allows for you to have a few questions or whatever the case
Absolutely.
may be. And we're going to get started. Why don't you now look? Let me tell you. I've looked at the movie Alilia at least 3 times.
Wow.
At least 3 times. Now, I have known you, I would say maybe over 10 years now,
At least, at
at
least.
least 10 years. And what you have done for the community and how you kept the word out about Madam CJ Walker and all the things that she did and entrepreneurship for women and so on and so forth. Tell us a little bit about what's going on now in your world and how are things going and how all this began and the new owner of Essence Magazine and what he's done. It's
Right.
so much
Right.
going on. So you go ahead and tell us.
So, listen, it's just really great to be here with you. I know how much you do that in many ways embodies the legacy of Madam Walker
Oh,
because,
thank you.
yes, you are doing hair and making people look good and feel good about themselves, but you also are very engaged in the community
Yes,
with
ma'am.
your own philanthropy and your own activism. And so that's very much a part of Madam Walker's life. So I know that there's a lot of new interest in Madam Walker as a result of the Netflix series, but there are
Yes,
many folks who have known about her for a long time and know that this is one little piece of the pie. It
yes,
is,
ma'am.
in fact, a piece of the pie that means millions of people around the world know her name or people want to know a little bit more. But I will say, folks, the film, Octavia Spencer is fabulous.
Yes,
The
she was.
wigs, is the hair not incredible?
Oh,
Because
it was. I was
because
blown
you
away.
know that hair can be black folks' hair in movies can be whack. So
Okay, that is the truth. I was.
so
Oh my God.
I know it was. I mean, even from the like the braids when she's going bald to then the other styles and all of that. I mean, I'm going up on a little tangent, but those are the things that I think were so amazing about the film and just elevating Madam Walker's name. But I do want folks to know that 95% of that film is fictional. Okay. So you really can't look at it and think that it is Madam Walker's life. What you can see is it's Madam Walker's spirit and her courage. But the Addie Monroe character, as many people know, Annie Malone was really her competitor, but their rivalry was not anything like that. It wasn't about colorism. Annie Malone didn't follow Madam Walker to Indianapolis. When I did the research for On Her Own Ground, the nonfiction biography of Madam Walker, I really tried to do a lot of research to show Annie Malone was, in fact, a very successful businesswoman, a philanthropist, and they were kind of equals and rivals as opposed to this kind of catfight thing.
Right.
And then the sweetness character wasn't real. The Esther character was totally made up. Yeah, I know. And totally,
Are you serious?
totally made up. And these are things that in the scripting process, I had script review, not script approval.
Right.
And these were things that the Hollywood script writer and the showrunners wanted to include. So I would not have done it in that way. But I am really glad that the series has been good entertainment for people and inspired people in this very difficult time to maybe, up their side hustle. So there's that. But it is one of many, many things. As you know, this has been a lifelong journey for me. When I was
Absolutely.
3 years old, I started to find things that had belonged to Madam Walker and Amelia Walker in my grandmother's dresser drawer. And the silverware that we used every day had Madam Walker's monogram CJW on it. And the baby
Wow.
grand piano on which
Wow.
I learned to read music had belonged to Amelia Walker and was played by a lot of famous Harlem Renaissance people. My
Mm.
mother was vice president of the Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. So I really grew up with this story,
Yes.
but wasn't really sort of, no one said to me, you need to go into the family business. My parents were really great about encouraging me to do what I loved, which was writing. And so as a result, I've now written 4 books about Madam Walker, and I'm almost finished with a 5th book, which will be the first major biography of Amelia Walker. So this is the Netflix series is a great platform, but there are, as you know, 2 National Historic Landmarks associated with Madam Walker's life, the Madam Walker Legacy.
Uh-oh. I think we lost your voice. I think we lost your voice. Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Okay, guys, if you all can still hear me, plus there, I think we lost her voice. Wait a minute. I don't know what happened. Hold on. I can't hear you. Let's see. We done lost her. Hold on. Uh-oh. Can you all hear me? Okay. Hold on. We're going to see if she can. Hold on, guys. She's going to come back. Stick with me. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let's see if she'll come back in. Okay, guys, for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the interview with Amelia Bundles, the great-granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker. Here she comes. Let's see if we can bring her back in. Hold on. Uh-oh. Let's see. How did that happen? Okay. Let's see if it's allowing her to come back in. Hold on,
Yeah,
guys.
we're back.
Okay, we're back.
Sorry.
That's
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know what happened anyway.
Okay,
But
no worries.
but anyway, there are all these great things that are going on. And then you ask about Richelieu Dennis.
Yes.
So the founding CEO of Sundial Brands. So Rich created, this is 2 of the new products for the MCJW,
Okay.
available at Sephora.com.
Okay.
And when Richelieu created this line as part of the Sundial family of Nubian heritage and Shea Moist.
Now she went, you know what? You went quiet again for some reason. I don't know if it's the, there you
After
are.
he sold the cut, yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know. There's some alarm going off on my phone. I don't know.
That's
But
okay.
anyway, so now he's created. After he bought Essence and created the New Voices Fund for women of color entrepreneurs. Among the other things was he created a foundation that now owns Madam Walker's home, Villa Lawaro, in
Yes.
Irvington, New York. So that's really exciting.
And so they get to go to the home and they actually learn classes on entrepreneurship and things of that nature. Is that
So
correct?
that will eventually happen. So I think the home, it's about a year and a half ago when the foundation acquired the home. And so there had to be some repairs. The house was actually in amazing shape for a 100-year-old house, but it
Wow.
still needed some repairs. And so
Okay.
that's been going on. And of course, now this current pandemic has slowed down some of the final things.
Yes.
But eventually, the women who go through that New Voices Fund curriculum will have some convenings at the house. So that's really exciting.
Okay, so let's go back. Now, when you had the opportunity to see the script and then you
Mm-hmm.
saw the actual movie for the first time
Mm-hmm.
and you realized that 80% of it was fiction,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think to yourself?
Well, I think Madam Walker's life is interesting enough and dramatic enough you know, on its own. I mean, I just do. I just do. But I think there's certain templates and formulas that are often used in Hollywood. And I think that the head writer had a vision of this story. And as she has said in interviews, where she wanted to modernize Madam Walker in a way to try to
Oh.
make her more appealing to a younger audience. And I actually think, someone wrote to me and said, there was a lot of time spent on this colorism fight that didn't really happen. And
Mm-hmm.
that took away from really talking about Madam Walker's philanthropy, her political activism, how she empowered other women. And that I think a younger audience would be really interested in her activism because it's a Black Lives Matter story. So, it's just a sort of a difference, a creative difference. I'm hoping that this gets so much interest in Madam Walker and that Octavia Spencer did such a great job and that people were excited about it, that it means that we will have more opportunities to tell Madam Walker's story because there are many other parts of her life to be developed. And I would
Right.
really love to do that. But
Right.
this was Nicole Jefferson Asher, who is this head writer, had a particular vision of what she thought the story should be.
Right. When I was looking at the movie, and that's why I had to go back and look at it a couple of times because I noticed how she would take it back, but then take it forward. Even when it
Hmm.
came to the music, I was like,
Right.
wow, this is pretty interesting. And
Hmm.
so I see what you're saying. She was trying to attract to the younger generation, our Gen Ys, or all of those. Now it's what is it, Gen Z, which
Right.
I've never
Right.
heard. That's kind of crazy to me. But I saw what she was doing. But let me tell you, aside from that, what I love the message about Madam C.J. Walker was her entrepreneurship and how she didn't take no for an answer,
Right.
and her constitution. She had a strong constitution. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
That's from those early scenes when you see Octavia Spencer as Madam Walker over that wash tub and really grappling with what her life is going to be. I think she really portrays that courage and that tenacity. And Madam Walker, born Sarah Breedlove on a plantation in Delta, Louisiana, where her parents and older siblings had been enslaved, was a resilient person. She had fortitude. And that's what allowed her to survive through all of those really difficult years when she's trying to raise her child as a widow. But then the church was key in this. When
Uh,
she moved from Louisiana to St. Louis, her brothers in 1888, her brothers were there. They were barbers. And that black men dominated the barbering trade
Absolutely.
in the 1800s and
That's
early
right.
1900s until they were displaced by recent European immigrants. But they had been the servants who cut the hair and shaved people. And so they really, during slavery, so they were really the ones who ran that industry. Then
Hmm.
they were pushed out, but she saw her brothers in business. And so she saw some entrepreneurship within her own family. Then their barbershop was very near St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church in St. Louis in the Black neighborhood. And it was the women of the church who began to give her a vision of herself as something other than an illiterate washerwoman. They pushed her up and she began to emulate them. She aspired to something better through them, through their example.
Wow. And then what about the National Council of Negro Women?
Right.
What about that? Tell us a little bit about that.
So, and this was the forerunner, even before the National Council of Negro Women, which I know you are very familiar with. Before
Yes,
that, the National Association of Colored Women. So, listen, do you remember the fox trap in DC?
absolutely. We used to
Okay.
hang.
All
I
right.
was
Okay.
16 years old. Let's not talk about it.
So, but
And after I
sneak
leave
it
the
in.
fox trap, I would get up early in the morning and sneak down to the Channel Inn.
Okay. Well, hey, but that building, that beautiful building that became the fox trap, that was the headquarters of the National Association of Colored Women. They had owned it for decades before it became the fox trap.
Right.
But these women founded this organization in 1896 before the NAACP. So they were highly educated, well-traveled activist women who were responding to some of the racism in the white women's suffrage movement. They were creating their own suffrage movement, their own social outreach. And so these were not women.
Oh, her alarm went off again. Hold on, guys. Stick with us. She's coming back.
There's an alarm that I can't turn off on my phone that keeps coming back. So that it keeps interrupting. But at any rate, these were not women who were content to be in the kitchen. So that was kind of a device that the script writer used, I think, to show, you know, whatever misogyny or sexism was going on. But these were women. Margaret Murray Washington was a dean of girls at Tuskegee, and she was the president of the National Association of Colored Women. So they were not content to be in the kitchen. They were out front.
Oh my God. Right. What so moving forward to now, today, and with everything that's going on, and you do understand that this is the time when entrepreneurship grows, when in the midst of a recession, a depression, and things of this nature that happen. This is when people go really think about entrepreneurship. And what I speak about all the time, and friends of mine speak about it, and one of my best friends, who's like a sister, what she speaks about is taking matters into your own hands and not allowing people to rule your life, and come up with your own entrepreneur ideas and your dreams. How do you feel about now, today, with us being quarantined and this epidemic and what's going on politically? What do you think we need to do as a society to survive and to thrive? Do you think this is the time for entrepreneurship?
You know, and I think this is a time when you really do have to dig deep to not be frustrated and not be discouraged, because many people are, some people are able to be at home and work at home and think about things that they haven't had time to think about, catch up on reading, maybe develop their side hustle. But a lot of folks are just really struggling. Yeah. And it's really easy to just say, not yet one more crisis in my life that I can't deal with. But that's what when you really have to push through. And whether it's prayer or meditation, or whatever, consciousness, to calm yourself and to focus yourself and to be about intention. This is the time to do it.
That's huge.
It has to be. It has to be. And because it is really understandably, a lot of people will just throw up their hands and get depressed. But you've got to, to the degree that you can get your networks together, get your own internal voice going so that you are pushing through. But you are absolutely right. It is a moment when entrepreneurship happens. Really, when I think about Madam Walker, two of the key things that she did happened when the economy was really bad. Now, she was a washerwoman. She wasn't really making a lot of money. But the panic of 1903, she was really just beginning to start a business. Panic of 1906, she was in Pittsburgh and the banks were closing, but that's when she was really starting her first school. And I think especially for people who are doing personal care,
yes,
like hair care, like makeup, all of these things that we think of that, like you can do it yourself, but you really prefer somebody like you who really knows what they're doing.
Right.
But there's an opportunity to help your customers figure out ways that they can do hacks, that they can sort of make their way through. But is it a seminar? Is it a one-on-one consultation? And your customers who are accustomed to coming in and paying for your services, they still should be paying for these one-on-one consultations. Maybe the price is a little different, but how do we help people figure out what to do when you can't do it for them, when you can't be there personally for them?
Wow. Okay. Let's go back to the movie, okay? Because we're going to go back and forth a little bit. Someone just mentioned about T. Booker.
Oh, yes.
Was that true?
Not quite. Not really. So Booker T. Washington, and this is why I really need people to read the book.
Oh, exactly.
I'm just saying, so the book was originally titled On Her Own Ground, The Life and Times of Madam C.J. Walker. That will be the permanent title, but during this period of the movie tie-in, the publisher, in order to be able to put that beautiful picture of Octavia Spencer on the cover, Netflix required us to temporarily change the name to Self-Made. So people can order that on my website, on Amazon, IndieBound, etc. But I really need people to read the book, because the
Okay.
real story about Madam Walker and Booker T. Washington, yes, they got off to a rocky start, but the resolution was one of collaboration. He was the most powerful Black man in America, and she had met him through the NACW when his wife was president at a
Hmm.
convention.
Hmm.
And then she had written a letter asking to go to Tuskegee to speak at a farmers conference, and he wrote her, kind of a dismissive letter back, like, this isn't really the appropriate place. And you know how this goes. You are trying to be part of a conference, or you want to sell your products, and people face rejection. I mean, that's part of the entrepreneurial process.
Yes.
So he said, no, don't come, but she went anyway,
Oh,
with a
she did.
letter,
Okay.
with a
Okay.
letter of introduction. She arrived on Tuskegee's campus, and she asked to, speak at the conference, and he said no. But Emmett Scott, his chief of staff, arranged for her to speak at chapel. So she did that, and then she demonstrated her product. So that happened. Then a year or so later, she contributed $1,000 to the building fund of the YMCA in Indianapolis. Big deal for a Black woman to make that kind of contribution. So
Hmm.
now people were reading about her. Black publications were writing about her. White publications were writing about her. And she knew that her platform had been elevated. So she decided to go to the 1912 National Negro Business League Convention, the organization that Washington had founded. She
Now,
arrived at.
sidebar for a minute.
Mhm.
How do you feel about people getting involved in those organizations now? Do you think it's important, like the Urban League, like what was it? You and I used to run into each other all the time in September at the what was it in DC? Um,
In Street Village.
no, the conference they used to do every
uh,
September. What
Black
was
Caucus.
Black Caucus?
Right.
But it stopped. Remember when 9/11 happened and it was canceled? It still hasn't been the same. So,
Right.
are you thinking that we as a community need to participate in these organizations again? And do you like where they're leading and where they're going?
Well, no, absolutely. I think it really is important for us to, and whether it's NAACP Legal Defense Fund, whether you're making a contribution because our voting rights are being, challenged. NAACP, Urban League, National Council of Negro Women, National Coalition of 100 Black Women, 100 Black Men.
Hmm.
You may not want to do everything that they do, but I do think there is some strength in an organization with people who are leading those organizations, who can have a bigger platform than just you as one individual. And then you may find you can become involved in leadership in those organizations. So I do believe there is some power in that. And I know people may think, oh, maybe that's anachronistic, or what is that group doing for me now? But if you can find a way into what they're doing. And I would say NAACP Legal Defense Fund, if nothing else, make a contribution and
Hmm.
follow them on social media. Make sure that you're on their Twitter feed or Instagram feed. Black Lives Matter. Just see where you can fit in. So I think that there is power. And Madam Walker saw that power when she had her 1917 convention of her sales agents, one of the first conventions of women entrepreneurs. She talked about sales and recruitment, but she also talked about political power. She used that army of women as a way to encourage them to support the anti-lynching movement and to
Hmm.
help people who were moving to cities. But I'm just going to try to tell you this quick Booker T. Washington thing, because I do think it's really important for people to understand. When Madam Walker got to his convention in 1912, she wasn't on the program. And again, when you go to a conference, they have planned those speakers months, if
Months
not a
in
year
advance.
in
Yes,
advance. So
yes,
you
yes.
don't just walk up and say, hey, I want to be on the program. But she knew that people were reading about her and curious about what she was doing and how she had turned herself from a washerwoman into a prosperous businesswoman. So she asked to be included on the program, and Washington ignored her. And I'm going to tell this long story short.
Okay.
Second day she asked to be on the program, and he called on somebody who was one of her neighbors and wouldn't let her speak. And the person was, somebody she knew well, who was successful, but not as successful as she was. And so on the third and final day of the conference, she saw he wasn't going to give her permission. And so she stood at her seat, looked toward Washington at the podium, and said, Surely you are not going to shut the door in my face. I'm a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. From there, I was promoted to the wash tub. From there, I was promoted to the kitchen. And from there, I promoted myself. I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing hair goods and preparations, and I have built my own factory on my own ground. The next year, he invited her back as a keynote speaker. And then when he came to the dedication of the YMCA a year later, she sent her chauffeur to pick him up at the train station, and he was a guest in her home. So you see, that's very different from the
The
picture
movie.
that's presented there. And I would say one of the bonuses of doing this work that I've done is that I get to meet people like you, and I get to hear people's stories of their own triumphs. But I also get to meet the people who are descendants of people like Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du
Yes.
Bois and Ida B. Wells Barnett. And so, we all try to tell the story in various ways. And so I really know, I know that their his family members were very upset about the portrayal. And I understand that. That was not something that I had any responsibility for. That was a decision that was made by the scriptwriter.
Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Do my facial expressions, are they that?
Did she really live near him?
So here's the deal. She lived in Irvington, New York, in Westchester County. People know, right outside of New York City, Westchester
Yes.
County. At the time, it was the wealthiest, acreage of America. And she lived about 3 miles down the Hudson River from Rockefeller's estate, Kykuit. She was not his next door neighbor. They were not friends. There is nothing I have ever seen that shows me that they ever met each other. So she would not have, at any rate, walked onto his property. And she would not have asked him for advice. There were so many Black men and women with whom she was close and who were mentors to her or colleagues of hers. Those were the people whose advice she sought. That was, I guess, a device to show that there was some proximity to their mansions, but that did not happen in real life.
So basically, the movie was a movie. It
That's
wasn't
right.
a bio. It wasn't anything about her life story. They talked about her per se, but it wasn't geared towards how really things really happened. They wanted to make it a movie to attract people just to see it and know her name, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson for all of us in the audience, that, and these terms that people use, like some people will say, "Oh, I saw your documentary." But I'm a journalist, so I just need folks to know a documentary is a nonfiction, all factual story.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is Stanley Nelson's 1989 documentary, $2 and a Dream, about Madam Walker, is now available for free on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and just Google, just put in the search box $2 and a Dream and Stanley Nelson, you'll be able to watch that 50-minute documentary.
Mm-hmm.
But a Hollywood treatment can be close to the historical accuracy, or it can be way far away from historical accuracy. In my mindset, with a historically iconic figure like Madam Walker, there's enough drama to really tell the story. But that was a very different vision from the writer who was doing the treatment on this story. So yes, you should not take it at face value. Of course, Addie Malone, Addie Monroe, that colorism conflict was not real.
Yeah, and let me tell you, through the bloggers and people on social media and on the web, people are talking about that because they were upset.
Yes,
that that they started that. Well, they put that in the movie the way that they did. And it's good that you're around to even talk about that, because people didn't understand it. And it's created a lot of conversation.
It's created a lot of conversation, and I totally understand it. I do. Obviously, colorism was an issue, still is an issue in our communities, but it was not an issue between Madam Walker and her primary rival. So that was just something, again, that the head writer has said she wanted to introduce that issue into as a theme into the film. But a lot of people are not happy with that, and I
Yeah.
understand. I understand where they're coming from, because it didn't really happen, and it just sort of made it into something, into more of a cat fight between two women over
Yes.
color, and that really was,
Right.
and their fight was over, who's got the best marketing, who is telling the story. So that was not real.
And then how
Another,
they were betraying one another with family members and things of
yes,
that nature.
yeah, that just didn't happen. Now, the another thing that was, in addition, Booker T. Washington, the Esther character, the Sweetness character, who I know a lot of people love Bill Bellamy and they
Yeah.
enjoyed him in the
Yeah.
in the in the role.
Yeah.
But Sweetness was a made up character, and this was something they introduced, I think. So they said to me, because they wanted to show that there are a lot of really smart Black folks who are denied opportunities in some of the corporate scenes, corporate jobs, and especially then, and so use their smarts to have businesses. Those businesses were illegal. But the thing that was, a concern to me is that Madam Walker's attorney, F.B. Ransom, who's the grandfather of Stanley Nelson, the documentary filmmaker, was such a straight arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And he had taken a pledge as a young man never to drink, smoke, or curse or gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And so to then have him betting on the numbers with this made up character, to me, made it seem like a Black business had to have some illegal investment. And that was not what happened. That was not the
Mm-hmm.
reality.
I
And
am
I,
so glad you clarified that. I am
yeah,
so
yeah.
because that was the question. They were like, why did and then okay, because I know you gotta go, but I got just so many. Okay.
I'm here to answer as many questions as you want to ask.
Okay,
So
okay,
let's go.
okay. So the husband, was he really like that?
So there's a lot that's made up. So C.J. Walker, and I will say, I have to really say, Blair Underwood was great
Oh, he
about.
was fabulous.
Yeah, and I love that he and Octavia are love interests. I mean, I just think that made a lot of women really
Yeah.
happy.
And he looks great. Look, I
And
was like, when I get his age, because I know he's in his late 50s
I think
now.
he's 55. I think
Right? I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I got to keep it together, man. He's
right.
still keeping it
Yeah,
together.
he's a role model
Yeah.
for all of us. But but I will say this: he is a really lovely man.
Mm-hmm.
I only had one day on this set, and it was a day when Demaine Davis was directing, and Octavia Spencer and Kevin Carroll, who plays F.B. Ransom, were doing the scene that was in her office where they talked about lynching. So I won't give that away for people who haven't seen it. And the other
Okay.
scene was the hotel room. And when I say, CJ, wear your shoes, people will. One of the memorable lines.
I think my favorite was it almost was like the roles reversed when she said, "Let me think about it.
Right.
I got something to think about.
I
I'll
got
talk to
something
you
to
later."
think.
You know that
Exactly.
because most men do that.
Right.
And to see a woman do that and have the control that she had, I know a lot of women were sitting there thinking to themselves, "Okay, I like that. I like that."
Right.
Yes.
But when in the process, when they were shooting in Toronto before the day that I went, he reached out to me, and because he was doing research on Charles Joseph Walker, and it was real. I thought I really admired him for doing that because he wanted to know as much as he could
Mm-hmm.
about the character. So I shared information with him. There's information about him in the book, but I've done another 20 years worth of research. So I was able to give him some background and what CJ Walker really, who he was. In St. Louis, he had worked for a newspaper selling ads, and he was familiar with kind of promotion and events planning and those kinds of things. So when he moved from St. Louis to Denver in late 1905, he and Sarah Breedlove got married in January of 1906. She became Mrs. C.J. Walker, and then for the business title, Madam C.J. Walker. But he
Mm-hmm.
was very helpful in the beginning. And there are ads in the Denver papers where he's planning a big festival or a big picnic, and
Mm-hmm.
a church picnic, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a beauty contest, she's doing the hair. So they were really partners and working together. But over time, her ambition really did outstrip his. And she told a reporter, when we began to make $10 a day, my husband thought that was enough. And so $10, that'd be $500 or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Right. Um, and due to his narrowness of vision, we parted ways. Now that says, you'd have to dig
That's
down.
an
What does
interesting
that
statement.
really mean? Now, what she didn't say to the reporter was, he's having an affair with one of my agents.
And that was true?
So that part was true. That's why I say 80% it isn't true. That's part
Yes,
of
yes,
it.
yes, yes,
20%
yes.
that is. So that was actually true. Now the Gibson girl ads and those kinds of things, that didn't happen. That's creative license that I can kind of go, okay, well, I understand why they're trying to do that. So no, he didn't, get drunk and come, interrupt a meeting and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
But he was, I mean, one of the things that was important to me in writing the book, Madam Walker is not a perfect person. None of us is perfect. We
Right.
all have flaws. We all have, mistakes that we make. So I'm fine with showing that a person has flaws. That's not my issue. It's
Mhm.
that when you look at something and you really want to tell what are the core values of the person, what are the events that happen, that you can try to find ways to be as true to it as possible.
Mhm. Okay, the daughter
Hmm.
was where they were alluding to
Right,
about her sexuality.
right.
Was that true, and did that eventually change, or what was that all about?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think people have to ask, the head writer and the showrunners why they felt the need to create this Esther character. So that was not my decision. Um, I don't know why they did that, but the real conflict between Madam Walker and Alelia Walker was over two men, her two boyfriends. They kept mentioning doctors. Well, the two loves of her life were men who were doctors. And they were both doctors, both handsome. And one was kind of a bad boy with a bit of a swagger and a bit arrogant.
Uh-huh.
And the other was the good guy who Madam Walker adored.
Uh-huh.
And of course, who do you think she was, most taken with?
Right.
We know how that goes. We know
Yeah,
how
yeah.
that goes.
Right, right, right.
And so this was going on 1917, 18, 19. Madam Walker died in 1919. But during those 2 years, Jack Kennedy was the good guy. And he was off in France as a surgeon during World War I with the black troops.
Hmm.
And Wiley Wilson was finishing his medical degree at Howard. And he was from a family, of brothers who were entrepreneurs. So he wasn't intimidated by her, where
Hmm.
most people were kind of threatened by her money. But his family hadn't had tons of money, but they had means for a while. So
Hmm.
he was, able to hang.
Hmm.
So, but Madam saw that he was really not in love with her daughter in the way her daughter was in love with him. And she knew that would ultimately be a problem. And so she encouraged Alelia and my grandmother May to go to the Caribbean and Central America to try to develop that territory. So Lelia in early 1919 went off to Panama with my grandmother. And then so this drama is playing out. I think Madam is trying to give her some distance from the bad boy.
Yeah.
And then Madam gets sick, and Lelia writes her a letter and says, I've decided to marry Kennedy, the good guy, and
Mm.
not Wiley, the swagger guy.
Okay.
And her mother is very happy about that. And she writes a letter to her on May 16th, 1919, and says, I'm so happy you've decided to marry Kennedy and not Wilson. I never thought he would make you happy. And she summons Kennedy from Chicago to her bedside at Villa Lawaro and says, I want you to marry Lelia and make her happy. And she dies 9 days later. And assuming that Lelia is going to marry Kennedy.
Mm.
Lelia gets back from Panama and buries her mother on June 3rd, 1919. And then on June 6th, her 34th birthday, she marries Wiley Wilson. And then he proceeds to do what her mother predicted. And then ultimately they divorce and she marries Kennedy. So is that like real drama or what?
Oh my God.
That's drama.
Okay. And they
That's
should have
what
put
I'm
that
writing
in the
about in
movie.
my new book that will be out next year about Alelia Walker.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
Okay.
only the tip of the iceberg.
Are you kidding? Oh my God. Okay. Let me see. I think it was one more. Okay. Someone had asked, what happened to Madam C.J. Walker's company now?
Hmm.
What happened to the product company? What's going on? What are we looking forward to? Because I'm sure there's some things coming down the pike. Give us a little update. When did
Sure.
her business, because for a while you just didn't hear about the Madam C.J.
That's
Walker
right.
company. It just disappeared.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that and where we are now.
So the quick timeline, the company was founded in 1906 in Denver. Then Madam Walker moved the headquarters to Indianapolis in 1910, and the
Mhm.
company stayed in business. Actually, never went out of business. But my family and Mr. Ransom's family, his children, my mother's generation, um, continued to work at the company. But the company, and you know how the hair care industry has disruption.
Shifted. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Annie Malone's Poro Company, Sarah Spencer Washington's Apex Company, and Madam Walker's Walker Company were the big three well-known companies founded by Black women. And they were the strong brands through the 1950s. But
Mm.
then Soft Sheen, Johnson Products, Summit Labs disrupted the press and
Ah.
curl market
Yes.
with
Yes.
chemical straighteners. So that then meant those companies were not keeping up. They
Mm.
were disrupted. Then those chemical straighteners were popular for a long time. Then people, when we went through natural movement, then we went to weaves and back and forth, back and forth. And during that period of time, from the mid 80s until about 2013 or so, the brand, the trademark was owned by another company.
Mm.
And it was not a major player during that period of time. But Rich Dennis had heard about Madam Walker even when he was living in Liberia. And after he
Mm.
was well established with Sundial Brands, Shea Moisture, Nubian Heritage, he was interested in reviving Madam Walker's brand. So he bought the trademark. And and I'm a historical consultant for them.
Ah.
So the products were relaunched in Sephora.com in 2006, and the products are available at Sephora.com. There will be some new developments with this, and when I have some more things that I can talk about, we will talk again.
Absolutely. And when your next book comes out, we got to, well, what I'm going to do, guys, this is those of you who are viewing this and viewing the replay, this is your assignment because I've known Alelia for a long time. So I know if I call her, she'll be like, okay, her schedule's crazy. But what
I'm
I
here
need
for
you to
you.
thank you, honey. You know I love you. You know we got to do our lunch, our sneak lunch. Again,
Again.
um, I want you all to get the book. I want you to read the book. I want you to look at all of the work that she has done in this story and in this movement now, back then and today. I want you to get the book. I want you to read the book because I want her to come back on and we talk about some of the things in the book that we didn't know about. Let's do a Q&A. Let's do a book club
Yes.
on your book. And where can they get this book again?
So you can get the book on my website, aleliabundles.com. It's ALELIA bundles.com, on madamcjwalker.com. Madam has no E, as you can see there.
Yeah.
MADAMCJWalker.com. Amazon.com, IndieBound.com, Barnes and Noble, and Simon and Schuster's website. If you type in the author's name, you just type my name in on Simon and Schuster's website. It comes.
Perfect.
I recorded an audio book.
Oh,
So
you
you
did
can,
record an
yes,
audio.
yes, I did that
Is
in
that on
February.
Amazon too?
That's on Amazon. You can only get that on Amazon and on Simon and Schuster. An ebook, a Kindle book, and then the paperback. And the paperback, if you want an autographed copy, you can order it through my website.
Through your
But the
website.
truth is, you will get it quicker if you order it on one of the other book sites, because I am the fulfillment department right now.
Right.
And I'm only going to the post office once a week.
Okay, last but not least. So again, I told you we were going to go back and forth. There are a lot of entrepreneurs on this live, and they're going to see this video. There are a lot of people that are in direct sales and multi-level marketing and so on and so forth. And the platform of what Madam C.J. Walker was direct sales. She brought in salespeople. She paid them a commission to sell the product, so on and so forth. Based on your studies and what you saw back then and where we are today, do you think that that's going to be prevalent now because of what we're getting ready to go through where they're saying that we're getting ready to go through a recession? You got, what, 6.6 million people who've applied for, unemployment, but people are looking for now that side hustle or to start a small business. How do you feel about direct sales now, and what can they learn from the Madam C.J. Walker platform that they can use today in this day and time? And do you think they'll do well?
Well, I think that anybody who has an online platform for sales is really positioned to take advantage of it, because it's going to be a long time before people are really comfortable going
Mhm.
out and being around people. But it also is an opportunity to up your game on your online demonstrations, showing how your products work. And
Mm.
you can see all of those things on Instagram. They really bring you in. I look, you look at the quick demonstrations, and I want to punch that button on Instagram and order it. But it has to be, well done. And you can do it on your iPhone now. You can make that. But I think it's having, she would say, you have to have a great product, and then you have to promote it. You have to
Mhm.
engage people. But I think that we have all the tools at hand right now, and this is a time to sort of practice that and figure out how you edit it. And then you also have to, some education of people. You're demonstrating the product. But one of the things she did that people now may have to do virtually for a while, she would travel physically around the country, and she would gather people together. So this is maybe a Zoom call kind
Right,
of format.
right.
But one of the things she would do, she'd do a lecture that brought people in, and with something called a stereopticon, that was like a PowerPoint, where she
Hmm.
talked about Black businesses, Black education, current events, maybe to the whole church congregation. And then she would have a meeting afterwards with 10 to 12 women who were interested in becoming agents. She'd get them in a room together and demonstrate the system, show people how to wash hair, how to massage the scalp, how to apply the ointment, the wonderful hair grower. And all the while she was doing this, she was watching who was the woman who asked the best questions, who was the most engaging, who did the other women look towards, who had charisma. And at the end of the trip, she was recruiting. Everybody wouldn't sign up, but she would make that person her lead agent. And then
Mm.
maybe two or three other people would sign up that day, but then it was up to that agent, that lead agent, to recruit other people. So she had the ability to identify talent and leadership, to
Hmm.
empower them. And another key for her is surrounding yourself with really competent people. She hired FB Ransom. He is one of the key reasons she was able to be the visionary,
Hmm.
because she could trust him to do the day-to-day things. The manager of her factory was a woman named Alice Kelly, a former dean of girls at a Black school, who actually helped tutor her, helped her improve her grammar. She was a big proponent of lifelong learning. So all of those elements, I think, help to elevate her, help to make it one of the reasons she's maybe more remembered than some of her competitors, some of her contemporaries, because she assembled a great team. She recruited people in their leadership skills, and then she took it to the next level, which was her philanthropy and her activism and her involvement with national organizations.
You know what would be interesting if you could do, this is just my suggestion, what you
Hmm.
just taught right there in that 1 minute is what is so prevalent right now and huge, how she identified leadership and how she would just pay attention to certain things that she needed to be a part of her sales force. And that is just so, if you could just do a book on leadership, I mean, and finding talent in sales, I'm telling you, the research you have done is just incredible,
Thank you.
incredible. And let me tell you, on a side note, personally, I love you. I watch everything you do. You are a hard worker. You're always researching. You're always putting out good content.
Thank you.
Guys, I want you to, join her website. This woman is absolute. I never say a lot much to her because she's always so busy. But when I do, she's like, "Hey, Keith." It's like we've always been connected. She's incredible. So I want to let
Thank
you
you.
know we love you. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for giving us more insight. Thank you for the education. And we look forward to everything that you have coming. We're going to get the book. We're going to do a book club, and we're going to have you
Excellent.
back for part 2. How about that?
I will be ready for talking about the book. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. Thank you so much, Alelia. I love you, girl. Take care, honey.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This was absolutely incredible. I don't even know what to say. Hopefully you got some really good tips from the interview. I'm going to try to save it here on my Instagram so that you can share with your friends. And I just pray that you enjoyed. This was incredible. I'm just so blessed and thankful. Get ready because we're going to have another interview next week on another Step Up moment. And tune in to, if you haven't had the opportunity to tune in to my trend show, we have another episode coming out with that. If you have not seen any of my trend shows, you would want to go to my YouTube channel, which is Keith Harley, and you'll see some of my trend shows there. And also, you're welcome, my podcast. This has been incredible. Thank you again. Hope you had an amazing Easter. I hope you're staying inside. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're staying energetic. I hope that you are just, this is a rough time, guys. But what I have learned in this time is that you have to reflect, recharge, and reset. Those are my three main words: reflect, recharge, and reset. Use this time. Don't come out the same way. Take advantage of this downtime. Know that you can take it to another level. Those projects that you've always wanted to work on, this is those times. If you've ever wanted to change anything about yourself or think of change about your patterns or your habits, this is the time to do it. And it seems like the more you wait, the longer we stay in quarantine. Have you noticed? The more you procrastinate, the longer we keep staying in this situation. So if that is not a sign, you really, really, really should take advantage of it. The more you wait, the longer you wait, the longer you stay in quarantine. Practice emotional management and understand that this is your time to get focused more than ever. And look at the opportunities that are out there for you. Don't be judgmental. There are plenty of opportunities that are out here for everybody to start their own business, their side hustle, or whatever the case may be. This is when it gets important. Don't be judgmental. Look at the opportunity, educate yourself, and look forward to making a change or adding value to your life today. Because I think we as people, we have a tendency as we begin to judge and we look at a company or we look at a product or we look at an individual and say, that is beneath us. Well, guess what? Now you have a different perspective. Us being in these situations, it's not about judgment. It's about opportunity. Let me repeat this. It's not about judgment. It's about opportunity. But before you can get past the judgment and get to the opportunity, you need to reflect so that you can recharge and then you can reset. So catch yourself in judgment. Think about it. Think about the opportunities. Look what's coming before you. You cannot judge. I'm a perfect example. I didn't even know I was judging, but I did. And now today, I see that was a mistake, but it was a mistake because I didn't know any better. So what I do today now is I look at everything as an opportunity or an educational experience, okay? You got to be aware of your actions. Reflect sometimes on your past, but don't go back there. And reset yourself for your future so that you do not come out of this situation the same person. You couldn't ask for a better time. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stay with me through this new opportunity, which is Keith Harley Step Up and Trends and my podcast and Step Up Moments. This has been incredible. Thank you for your support. I love you and get ready for some huge stuff coming real soon. All right, guys, take care. Have a good day.